Hello and welcome to G Fun Facts Online, the show that dives deep into the science that shapes our world. What if I told you that one of the most powerful forces influencing our planet's climate is completely invisible? That it's been right under our feet this entire time, silently working, shaping ecosystems, and holding the key to more accurate predictions about our future? We're not talking about some new technology or a geological discovery. We're talking about a living, breathing network. A biological superhighway that connects almost all life on land. Today, we're digging into the hidden, sprawling universe of fungal threads, the so-called wood wide web, and revealing how these ancient organisms are forcing scientists to completely rewrite the rulebook on climate change. So grab your headphones, and let's get ready to explore the world beneath our world. Beneath the soil we walk on every day lies a secret, sprawling kingdom. It's not made of castles or roads, but of microscopic living threads. These are the mycorrhizal fungi, ancient organisms that have been in a quiet, symbiotic partnership with plants for over 400 million years. To put that in perspective, they were here long before the dinosaurs, helping the very first plants colonize land. This underground alliance is so fundamental, so widespread, that it involves an estimated 80 to 90% of all land plant species on Earth. Think about that. From the blade of grass in your lawn, to the giant sequoias of California, to the crops that feed us, nearly all of them are plugged into this fungal network. So what exactly are these fungi? And what do they do? Let's break it down. The term mycorrhiza literally means fungus root, and that's a perfect description. These fungi act as a second, vastly more efficient root system for plants. Imagine a tree's roots. They can only reach so far, but mycorrhizal fungi extend this reach exponentially. They form a massive network of tiny filaments, called hyphae, that weave through the soil, exploring microscopic nooks and crannies that plant roots could never access. This intricate web is the biological superhighway we mentioned, the wood wide web. But this isn't a charity, it's a partnership, a trade. Plants, as we know, are masters of photosynthesis. They pull carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and use sunlight to turn it into energy, in the form of sugary carbon. They then allocate a significant chunk of this hard-earned carbon, somewhere between 5 and 20%, and send it down to their fungal partners. It's a payment. In return for this steady supply of carbon, the fungi use their vast hyphal network to forage. They are experts at finding and absorbing vital nutrients that plants desperately need, especially phosphorus and nitrogen, which are often scarce in the soil. They also excel at finding and transporting water. The fungus delivers these crucial resources directly to the plant's roots. It's one of the most successful and long-lasting partnerships in the history of life. The plant gets nutrients and water. The fungus gets carbon. Everyone wins. Now, this fungal kingdom isn't just one big, uniform entity. It's incredibly diverse, but scientists primarily focus on two main types, and their different strategies have huge implications for the entire planet. First, we have the arbuscular mycorrhizal fungi, or AM fungi for short. These are the most common type, the generalists of the fungal world. They form partnerships with the vast majority of plant species, including most of our agricultural crops, grasses, and a lot of trees in tropical forests. Their method is intimate. The AM fungi don't just hang around the roots, they actually penetrate directly into the plant's root cells. Inside, they form these intricate tree-like structures called arbuscules. This is where the name comes from. It's at these arbuscules that the magic happens, the exchange of carbon for nutrients. But AM fungi have another superpower. They produce a sticky, carbon-rich protein called glomalin. We're going to talk a lot more about glomalin later, but for now, think of it as a kind of superglue for the soil. It binds soil particles together, creating structure and stability. On the other side of the spectrum, we have the ectomycorrhizal fungi, or ECM fungi. These are the specialists. They primarily partner with woody plants like pines, oaks, birches, and beeches, the kinds of trees that dominate the vast temperate and boreal forests of the Northern Hemisphere. Unlike their AM cousins, ECM fungi don't penetrate the root cells. Instead, they form a dense sheath, like a thick, fuzzy sock, all around the plant's root tips. Their hyphae then extend out from this sheath into the soil. What makes ECM fungi truly unique is their ability to act as miners. They produce powerful enzymes that can break down complex organic matter in the soil, like dead leaves and wood. This allows them to access nitrogen that is locked away and unavailable to AM fungi or the plants themselves. They are effectively decomposing and mining nutrients on the plant's behalf. So you have the AM fungi, the generalist connectors and soil builders, and the ECM fungi, the specialist forest miners. Two different strategies, two different groups of plant partners, and as we're about to see, two very different impacts on the global carbon cycle. Up until now, we've talked about how these fungi help individual plants. But their role is so much bigger than that. They are not just passive participants. They are active engineers of the soil's ability to store carbon. And the scale of their operation is simply mind-boggling. A groundbreaking recent estimate suggests that mycorrhizal fungi, through their relationship with plants, sequester approximately 13 gigatons of CO2 equivalent from the atmosphere every single year. Let me put that number in perspective. That is more than 1/3, about 36%, of all the CO2 that humanity pumps into the atmosphere annually from burning fossil fuels. Every year, this invisible underground network is quietly locking away a massive amount of carbon. So how does this happen? Where does all that carbon go? It happens through several key mechanisms. First, there's the simplest one, building the living network itself. The carbon that plants provide is the fuel and the building block for the fungi. They use it to grow and maintain their sprawling underground hyphal networks. This living biomass, the fungal body itself, represents a significant, though temporary, carbon reservoir. It's carbon that has been taken out of the atmosphere and turned into a living organism in the soil. The second pathway is even more important for long-term storage, and it's called the necromass pathway. Necromass is just the scientific term for dead organic matter. Fungal hyphae have very short lifespans, sometimes just a matter of days. When these tiny filaments die, their carbon-rich remains, their necromass, become a key ingredient in what we call soil organic matter. For a long time, scientists thought that dead plant matter, like leaves and roots, was the main source of carbon in the soil. But there's a growing body of evidence showing that this fungal necromass is a much more significant contributor to stable, long-term carbon storage. The chemical composition of fungal remains makes them more resistant to decomposition than plant bits. So when a fungus dies, its carbon is more likely to stick around in the soil for decades or even centuries. The third, and perhaps most ingenious mechanism, involves our old friend from the AM fungi, glomalin. Remember that sticky superglue? AM fungi pump this stuff out into the soil around their hyphae. Glomalin acts like a powerful glue, binding tiny particles of sand, silt, and clay together into larger, stable clumps called soil aggregates. This is what gives healthy soil its nice, crumbly structure. But these aggregates do more than just improve soil quality. They are like tiny fortresses for carbon. Inside these aggregates, organic matter, including that stable fungal necromass, is physically protected. Microbes that would normally decompose this matter and release its carbon back into the atmosphere as CO2 simply can't get to it. It's locked away, safe and sound. Through glomalin, AM fungi are master soil builders, creating the very structure that allows soil to act as a long-term carbon vault. So to recap, you have carbon stored in the living fungal network, carbon stored more permanently in the dead fungal network, and carbon physically protected inside soil fortresses built by fungi. It's a multi-layered, highly effective system for pulling carbon out of the air and locking it underground. And for decades, our climate models completely missed it. For a long time, the global climate models that scientists used to predict the future of our planet treated soil as a simple, passive black box. They knew that soil stored a lot of carbon, of course. They could account for the carbon coming in from dead leaves and roots, and the carbon going out through decomposition. But they largely missed the dynamic living component of the soil ecosystem, the fungi. They didn't account for the fact that a huge portion of carbon enters the soil not as dead plant material, but as a direct payment from a living plant to a living fungus. This omission has led to massive uncertainties in predicting how much carbon our planet's ecosystems can actually store and how they will respond to rising CO2 levels. The core of the problem is that, as we've learned, different fungal networks behave very differently. Ecosystems dominated by those specialist ECM fungi, like the vast boreal forests that circle the top of the globe, tend to be fantastic at storing carbon. Because ECM fungi can mine their own nitrogen from organic matter, they essentially slow down the entire decomposition process in the ecosystem. With less competition for nutrients, other microbes are less active, and so organic matter, full of carbon, is allowed to build up in thick layers on the forest floor. In contrast, ecosystems dominated by the generalist AM fungi, like grasslands and many tropical forests, tend to have a much faster carbon turnover. The system is more dynamic, with carbon cycling through more quickly and not accumulating to the same extent. So if your climate model doesn't know whether it's looking at an ECM-dominated forest or an AM-dominated grassland, its predictions about carbon storage could be wildly inaccurate. It's like trying to predict traffic flow without knowing if you're looking at a 6-lane superhighway or a quiet country lane. The good news is, this is changing. New research is making it crystal clear that failing to account for these fungal-specific traits is no longer an option. Scientists are now working to integrate mycorrhizal processes into the next generation of Earth system models. And the results are promising. Studies are showing that when you tell a model about the fungi, which types are there, how they function, its ability to accurately predict soil carbon dynamics improves dramatically. We're finally opening the black box, and what we're finding inside is a fungal revolution in climate science. This new focus on the fungal world is yielding some truly astounding insights that are changing how we view entire ecosystems. Let's look at a few examples. One fascinating area of research is how different forests respond to elevated levels of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. You might think that more CO2, which is plant food, would be good for all forests, right? Well, it's not that simple. Some experiments have shown that under elevated CO2 conditions, trees associated with our specialist ECM fungi can increase their biomass by around 30%. They ramp up their growth, but trees partnered with the generalist AM fungi show almost no change. Why the difference? It seems that ECM-partnered trees can better leverage that extra carbon. They send more of it down to their fungal partners, who in turn go out and mine more nitrogen, which the tree then uses to build more wood and leaves. The AM-partnered trees don't have this advantage. This single finding has huge implications. It suggests that the type of fungi in a forest could be the deciding factor in whether that forest acts as a strong carbon sink in a high CO2 world. Here's another, perhaps more worrying discovery. It's called the nitrogen trade-off. In many parts of the world, human activity, particularly from agricultural fertilizer runoff and fossil fuel emissions, has led to a massive increase in the amount of nitrogen being deposited into our ecosystems. You might think that more nitrogen, a key nutrient, would be great for trees. But for our ECM-associated trees, it's a problem. Remember, their whole deal with the fungus is, I give you carbon, you go mine nitrogen for me. But in a nitrogen-rich environment, the tree doesn't need to work so hard to get nitrogen. The result, recent studies show, is that the symbiotic relationship becomes less efficient. The trees actually have to pay more carbon to their fungal partners for the same amount of nutrients. It's like the price has gone up. This puts them at a competitive disadvantage. And we're starting to see the consequences. In some temperate forests in North America and Europe, scientists have observed a worrying shift. M-associated trees, like maples, are beginning to grow faster and outcompete the traditionally dominant ECM trees, like oaks and pines. This isn't just a change in scenery. It's a fundamental shift in the forest's operating system, one that could lead to less long-term carbon storage, as the superior carbon-storing ECM systems are replaced. This leads us to the final critical point. This fragile, essential alliance is itself under threat from the very climate change it helps to mitigate. These fungal networks are finely tuned to their environment. Rising temperatures, altered rainfall patterns, and, of course, deforestation can disrupt this delicate plant-fungi symbiosis. Some predictive models are now forecasting that continued warming could trigger abrupt, large-scale shifts in fungal communities. This is especially true in highly sensitive regions, like the boreal forests. The fear is that these crucial ecosystems, which are currently massive carbon sinks, could be pushed past a tipping point. The fungal networks that support their carbon-storing ability could collapse, potentially turning these forests from vital allies into sources of atmospheric carbon, creating a dangerous feedback loop that accelerates warming. The future, it seems, is fungal. Understanding this hidden world is so much more than a fascinating academic exercise. It represents a critical frontier in our fight against climate change. By accurately modeling the role of these second roots, scientists can provide us all with more reliable, more accurate predictions about the future of our planet. This knowledge also brings a new urgency to the importance of preserving our natural ecosystems. It's not just about protecting the trees we can see, but about safeguarding the intricate, life-sustaining fungal networks thriving, unseen, in the soil beneath them. They are the silent partners, the underground architects of the global carbon cycle. Their health is, and always has been, inextricably linked to our own. So next time you walk through a forest or across a field, take a moment to think about the incredible, complex world operating just inches below your shoes. A world of ancient alliances and biological superhighways, working constantly to keep our planet in balance. That's all the time we have for today on Fun Facts Online. Thanks for tuning in and letting us be a part of your day. Join us next time as we uncover another fascinating piece of the scientific puzzle. Until then, stay curious.